everyone, it has been a while since I've spoken about the TUI River Cruises, and I think this will be my last video regarding it. Obviously by now it's been a year, and well, a year since I started, and things have changed and it's time to move on. It's time to put it behind me, but I did promise this video, so I'm just going to make this and then that will be it. Unless I suddenly get an influx of comments and people begging me to do a video, but I don't see that happening. So I have, for the first time since I got back, pulled out my notebook that I created while I was working on the ship. If you're new here, hello. The reason why I'm making this video is I worked on a TUI River cruise last year on the TUI Skylar. I worked on it from May until January, so I did the summer and the winter, and in the summer we were on the Danube, and in the winter we were on the Rhine. And me being me, I'm a very sentimental person and I like to keep track of everything I'm doing in life so that in the future I can look back on it. And as you can see, this is a very fat notebook because at the back here, I've got all the things either I collected or that people gave me over the season. And then the front bits, oh no, that's not true, I lied. At the back here, I've got the maps from everywhere we went, and everything else is just the bits and bobs I collected as the season went on. It's in chronological order. So I'm going to talk about all the excursions I went on. I didn't go on every single one, but I would say I probably went on about 90 to 95%. Like, I definitely went on most. Now last year, TUI did this wonderful thing that I really hope they've changed this year. We did ask them to, but as I say, I'm no longer working for them. I don't know what's happened. But on the page where you could book excursions, you could book a number of excursions, but only a handful, not even one or two per destination, would actually be TUI operated excursions, and the rest were third parties that were just advertising on their site. So obviously I didn't go on those because I wasn't allowed to. Well, I probably could have, but it would have been a lot more complicated. I only went on the TUI ones. And the itineraries we did in the summer, the winter was very complicated because we had lots of issues and things happened with water levels, which I know are happening at the moment as well. And we didn't really go back to many destinations multiple times, so I'm not going to talk about that. I will talk about the excursions I went on there, but not the itineraries. But in the summer, the three we rotated between were the Magical Danube, the Danube Treasures, which was my favourite, and the Eastern Danube. Now, I'm going to talk about the excursions in the order I did them. I'm just going to go through this notebook and talk about them. So I'm sorry if you're waiting to hear about the one I did in Germany, and that's not going to be until the end because that was in the winter. Is it in here? I think I've got the wrong notebook. I think I've taken out the wrong notebook. It's not in here. This is just my bits and bobs. I have another notebook where I wrote things down. I knew something wasn't adding up. Give me a minute. Here it is, much smaller, much neater. There we go, I stole these stickers from the ship. But, right, let's go. So in this journal, as I said, I track my life. So what I did in this journal was I wrote down every single day where we went, what the weather was like, what I did in terms of the activities I was hosting and whatever else, and also any excursions I went on, and then a line about the day itself and a line about if I went somewhere, where I went, even if it wasn't the excursion. And also which itinerary we were on and who was my cruise director. All that being said, let's talk about this. So the very first full day I was there, is that right? Yeah, the very first day I was there, I already went on an excursion. It was Budapest, and it was the Budapest City Tour. I did do this one again at the end of the season, and both times I thought it was excellent. I would really highly recommend this one. I mean, you absolutely can do Budapest on your own, and it also depends obviously what you're after, but I loved the way, first of all, that we had a guide, and you'll find that in a lot of things. I love hearing information, I love history, I love all that jazz, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I liked that, you know, you were brought from A to B to C back to the ship. Everything was very easy. You went up to the Buda Castle and you had some stunning views, and then you went somewhere else and you had a nice view of Parliament. Like, it was all, I thought, very well done. I can't remember the prices of any of these, and again, they may have also gone up, so I'm not going to talk about that. But overall, I would recommend the Budapest City Tour. The next one I did was actually one I had to go on, so I went on it many times, and it was the Melk Abbey Tour. If you're going to Melk on the Danube Treasures itinerary, which is the one we did, obviously things might have changed, but the way it worked when we were there, if you didn't book the excursion, there wasn't very much to do. You could have a look at Melk, the like little town itself, but the main reason for going to Melk, I would say, is because of the Abbey. So this is one where I would absolutely recommend booking it, especially if you're interested in seeing the Abbey, because you actually can't get in without the tour. They close it and they only have it open to the TUI guests who have booked for the excursion. And it was the word I wrote down was impressive. And I think I was impressed by it. They have this gorgeous library that every time just amazing. And you get some nice views as well. I would definitely recommend it. Also, where the ship is berthed, it's like, I would say probably a 20-minute walk, maybe less, into town. Whereas if you take the tour, you don't have to walk, you get a bus. So I would definitely recommend that one. The next one I went on was on the Eastern Danube, and it was the walking tour of Mohacs. And this one I enjoyed. I wrote it was very good. The guide was great. I have to say, in general, all the guides were excellent, I would say. I think we do have very good guides in general. I really enjoyed this, but again, I like hearing about it and hearing the history. Mohacs is, if you're going on the Eastern Danube Explorer itinerary, very easy to do on your own. So you definitely don't need to do this excursion. I just liked it because I liked hearing the information, but it's not necessary. The next one I went on was the Wine and History in and around Novi Sad, which I wrote was very good. This one though, I think it's advertised as easy, or at least maybe moderate, but it's quite intense. You need to be fit to be able to go on this one because they basically, I don't know why they do this, but they squish what should be a 6-hour excursion into a 4-hour excursion, or something along those lines, maybe 5 into 3, something like that. So you're walking fast and, you know, you have to keep up with it and you're going up lots of stairs. It was really, really good. I don't drink wine, so it wasn't because of the wine that I enjoyed it. But the wine is only a very, very small aspect of this excursion. It shouldn't be. I don't know why it's the first word of the way it's described. I thought it was an excellent excursion, but I don't think it's for everyone, and I think it can be misleading. All right, where's the next one? Ooh, okay, so the next one was the Bratislava City Train Tour. Now, it helps if you know that I just love Bratislava. It was one of my favourite places anyway. I did make a Skylar ranking destinations thing if you want to have a look at how I felt about the different places I went to in the summer. But I wrote that this was also very good, and it was. I loved the experience. It was this cute little like noddy train that you went up on up to the castle. And again, I think if you want to visit the castle and if you're not super fit, this is probably a better option because it's quite high up to walk. And again, I think it's about a 20-minute walk. Oh no, my notebook closed. But I really enjoyed this one. It was fun, it was informative, it wasn't too, taxing or anything like that. So yeah, I highly recommend it. But again, I'm biased because I just love Bratislava anyway. I also went on that one twice, I think. Next, I went on the walking tour of Krems, and I wrote that this was enjoyable. But again, I think with most of the walking tours, you'll find this, it wasn't necessary. I enjoyed it for the information, but Krems is easy to do on your own. That being said, if you're on the walking tour of Krems, you get a coach from the ship into town. And if you're not, I think you can pay for a shuttle, but I also think otherwise it's about a 10-minute walk, maybe 15. It's flat, it's not dreadful, but something to be aware of. But it was a good tour. I did enjoy it. The next one I went on was in Linz. It was from Linz, but it was the Mauthausen concentration camp excursion. And as you can imagine, this one was quite emotional, maybe is the right word. I wrote interesting, and again, I would recommend it because how often are you going to get the chance to go to a concentration camp? But it depends totally what you're after from your holiday. If that's not something you want, don't go, obviously. And if you've, been to other concentration camps before, maybe it's not your priority. Maybe you'd rather spend time in Linz. That's fine too. But I did think it was good. The next one was in Vienna. It was the Schönbrunn Palace tour, and I really liked this one. But if you only have one day in Vienna, I could see why you wouldn't want to do it. It totally depends on your priorities. As I've already mentioned, I love history and I love learning about things, so I really enjoyed going to Schönbrunn, but also I went back to Vienna almost every week. I spent 3 days a month, I think, in Vienna. So I had the luxury of doing this once and then, exploring all the other wonderful things about Vienna, but I could see why you wouldn't want to do that if it's your only day there. Especially because it's not exactly like you can get from Schönbrunn into the town or into the city centre or anything like that. So I could see why you would prioritise other things, but if you are interested in it, it was good. Next, again, the next time I was in Vienna, I did the Vienna City Tour, and I thought this one was very good, and I would actually highly recommend this. You get to see a lot of Vienna, you get a lift into town, because again, this is a place where the ship can't actually go into town, so otherwise you'd have to make your own way in. And what I like about this one is it finishes around noon, I think, and you do have the opportunity to stay in the city centre and, do your own thing and then come back to the ship later. Not with the coach, you'd have to make your own way back, but it means that you can get the information, see the sights in general, and then go back and, you know, take more time in the city centre. So I do think it's a good one, but equally you can do Vienna on your own as well. The next one was in Passau in Germany, and it was again a walking tour, and I said that it was good. Again, I liked the information, but again, it's very doable on your own. But I'm not good with directions. I don't have a good sense of direction, so I liked having someone be able to guide me as to where to go, not just guide me in terms of information. But Passau is really small, and usually you're docked like in the centre, so it's easy enough to do. The next one was again on the Eastern Danube, and it was the Kalocsa city tour, and I wrote nice. I actually would recommend this one because where you are docked in Kalocsa, you're not docked in Kalocsa. You could not walk it, and there's no public transport to get in. TUI, I believe, I don't know if they still do, but last year they did offer a shuttle, and I don't know what the price difference is between the shuttle and the tour, but I think you may as well do the tour. Because again, you get the information, you get to go in, you go into the Paprika Museum, I believe, which was nice, and I think you went somewhere else as well, though I may be confusing that with another excursion. Can't remember now. But either way, I do think it's good. By the way, if you do want to sort of see more of what these excursions entail, I did vlog all my time on the ship, so you can have a look at my vlogs if you want, scroll back a bit and find all the ones from the different excursions I did. Or even just the experience of life on the ship, you can find that there too. Then I went on the walking tour of Vukovar, and this is interesting, I really enjoyed this, but in Vukovar you've only got half a day. So if you do this excursion, you can't do anything else. And I mean, the guides were fantastic. I loved hearing the information, and the guide we had grew up there, and it was so interesting to hear their experience of it all. But again, first of all, Vukovar is super easily walkable and to do by yourself. But secondly, the last time we went to Vukovar, I discovered this like military, not quite a museum, but it was something that was a lot further away. It was maybe a half-hour walk. And there was an abandoned shul synagogue there as well, which obviously being Jewish, that was very important to see and very interesting to see. But it's really Vukovar is so small, you could easily do both, I would say. But you couldn't do the walking tour and seeing the museum or whatever it is. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. And if you do have any questions about anything, obviously feel free to just comment down below, and I'm happy to give a bit more detail if you want, or guide you to the right video of where I went on the excursion if you can't find it yourself. Oh, didn't go on an excursion for a while. I think this was peak summer, so I just was like, no thank you. All right, the next one, Bratislava again. Tales and Tastes of Bratislava, and I wrote really good. This was a nice one. You walked around, so it was, you know, a bit more physical, I suppose. And some of the information for me was the same as I'd got from the city train tour. But then you go off and you make some like dumplings or whatever it is. And I did really enjoy it, but I think I enjoyed it because I'd already been to Bratislava loads. I wasn't, you know, panicking about missing out on, you know, the place. Whereas I could see why you would choose not to do this if you'd rather experience and have time in Bratislava. Again, it's not a huge city, and it's very walkable, I find. I love Bratislava, sorry. But I feel like, this was fun. It was an activity to do, but I could see why that wouldn't be the reason you'd want to go on this excursion. The next one was the Dürnstein and Abbey tour, and actually this is the only one I haven't written anything for. Dürnstein is one street. It is tiny. You do not need to go on a tour for it. But there is the Abbey, which you wouldn't be able to go into. Oh, you could go into actually, I think, without the tour. Again, you wouldn't get all the information, but I think I remember enjoying the tour, but it really wasn't necessary. Although they did point out some things that I hadn't noticed the many times I'd been to Dürnstein before. That being said, Dürnstein is my second favourite place, equal to Bratislava. I loved it as well. If you're fit enough, my personal recommendation would be maybe explore the one street on your own and then go up to the abandoned, it's not a castle, fortress maybe? I can't remember exactly what it is. It is a proper hike. I think it's about it's not long, but it's steep, but you get gorgeous views over the valley. So that's what I would recommend doing in Dürnstein. But if you're just there to have some information and you're not very fit or you can't be bothered, then the tour is good. Obviously with everything, it's just dependent on, what you want to do and what your priorities are. And as I've already said a few times, I had the luxury of going back to every place. So it wasn't, I didn't have to choose. The next one I went to was the Paprika Tasting and Horse Show in Kalocsa. And I wrote good and bad. And I had a lot of thoughts about this. The horse show was really impressive, but it made me sad. I'm vegetarian and I'm an animal lover and I'm very supportive of animal rights. And I just felt really uncomfortable. I mean, maybe they treat the horses with love and, you know, kindness and whatever. But there was a lot I didn't enjoy watching about it. I really felt uncomfortable. And also they made a couple of, I mean, in general, I think Hungary is a bit more backwards than, you know, us. But I always have been an almost annoying feminist. I know that. But I have very strong beliefs about equality, funnily enough. And there were definitely some misogynistic hints or comments or actions. And yeah, it left me with a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. But if you don't care about that, and the paprika tasting was nice. And as I say, the horse show, actually, it was impressive. It was very cool to see. But, you know, I would recommend you just watch my vlog or something instead of supporting it. I don't know. I feel a bit weird about it. And then the next day I went to the Krochadol Monastery and Novi Sad tour in Novi Sad. And I think if you want to do a tour in Novi Sad and you're not as fit and active, this is the one to do. I wrote fine next to it because it wasn't necessarily like I'm pretty fit. I'm not, going to be running a marathon anytime soon or ever, but I am capable and active. I've done a lot of dancing and musical theatre and things like that. And I'd been to Novi Sad a few times before. And I'd already got all the information from the other tour I did. So for me, it wasn't the best, but I could see why it would be really good for a lot of people. And it gives you something a bit different. But there is a lot of time you're spending on a coach. And you could just spend the time in Novi Sad instead. You did spend a little bit of time in Novi Sad, but not loads. So again, it's up to you, but yeah, those are my thoughts. I thought it was good, and I could see why it would be really good for people who want to get, the information and do something a bit different, and who don't want to be as active. But if you're happy to just do your own thing, you absolutely can in Novi Sad. It's one of those places where it is very easy to do on your own. I think we're nearing the end now, because that's October already. I mean, yeah, that's just the city train again. Vienna city again. I think the last one, although we'll have a look, but I think the last one from the summer season is an evening in concert in Vienna, which I said was really good. I actually ended up going to this one twice. I'm not a huge fan of classical music, although I'm also not, totally anti, but I thought this was a really good way of maybe an introduction to classical music if you're not really into it. Because it had pieces that I recognised, and, as I say, I don't listen to it really. And they broke it up, they had a bit of dancing, I think, and they definitely had singers, so it was a really amazing atmosphere, and to do it in Vienna, it was very special. My camera's about to die, so I'm just gonna check if oh yes, I have one more. Right, let me see if I can do this quickly from the summer, and then I'll talk about the winter later on. In Budapest, on the very last day, I went on the Margaret Island tour, and I loved this one, actually. It was very different, and again, I think it depends. If you've got 2 days in Budapest, I would do it. If you only have 1 day, and you want to spend that time seeing Budapest, that's what I would do. But this was a bit different. It was a bit more naturey, and it was, a bit more authentic, I feel. It gave you a bit of a sense of local life, and it was very chill and comfortable, and I enjoyed it. I'm gonna leave it here, and I'll be back, well, for you in no time with my winter stuff, but my camera's literally gonna crash any minute now, so bye, and I'll see you soon. All right, hello, I'm back. I hope I've charged it enough to get through the rest. So, onto the winter season, let's have a look. So, the first one I did was a walking tour of Speyer, and I wrote really good, and I really enjoyed this. I think, again, as always, Speyer, you could have walked around yourself, but I loved getting all the information. I mean, especially in this place, I just felt like there was a lot there, and there was a lot of Jewish history that I knew nothing about, so it was nice to hear about that from the guide. Then the next one was, the excursion was from Breisach, but the excursion went to Colmar, and it was the Colmar City Tour, and I loved this one. I don't know what there is to do in Breisach because we only went there once and I went on the excursion. But personally, I think I would recommend the excursion. It is long. I think it was like a 5 or 6 hour excursion and you're out all day and you're walking around. But it's just the most magical little village. It's where Beauty and the Beast is based off of. And it's gorgeous. It's so sweet. And you know, you had the Christmas atmosphere because this was Christmas time now. And I just so highly recommend it. And it was nice because you walked around with the guide and then you had time to walk around yourself and go somewhere you wanted to. And it wasn't huge or anything like that, but I loved it. Then the next one I believe was from Bonn, but we weren't actually docked in Bonn when I went on this excursion because, as I say, we had lots of water level issues. And it was the chocolate tasting and making, and it was good. It was cool to see the factory. It did feel a little bit like Willy Wonka, but I felt I was expecting more, I think. But it was still good, and you did get to go home with a lovely, delicious chocolate bar. So, you know, there were some wins. But as I say, I just felt I was expecting more. And to be honest, the chocolate tasting was more or less awful because they had you try like 100% chocolate and then I think 87% or something crazy like that. So yeah, not the nicest flavours, but it was still good. That's it. I really didn't go on many. There were more I wanted to go on in the winter, but because of everything that happened, I just didn't get to. So that's everything, I believe, unless I've missed something somewhere. As I say, I do have my vlogs where you can find a bit more detail about each individual one, and you're welcome to leave comments and questions down below. But as I've also already said, I'm no longer working for TUI. This is from my experience from last year. Things might have changed, the excursions might be different, the systems might be different, I don't know. But that is my experience from last year, having been on the ship, having visited these places, and having a chance to go on most excursions. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in an actress trying to make a living in London, feel free to subscribe. I put up performing videos, I do book reviews and, you know, monthly reviews of books, TV, film, etc. that I've watched, theatre, lots of theatre, all that jazz. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to subscribe. If not, that's fine too. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye!